Wow, there we are. Hey, our guest is an award-winning children's author who sparked imaginations with 8 beloved books like Rowdy Randy and Let Me Tell You About My Mom, selling over 50,000 copies. And with the upcoming release of A Home for Steamboat, which features the really incredible illustrations of renowned artist Zach Pullen, she's about to sell 50,000 more. With a master's in elementary education from our beloved Montana State University, she blends her love of nature, animals, and the Wild West into tales of adventure and resilience, all from her home in Wyoming. Her warm, creative spirit is sure to light up our humble live stream tonight, and her name is Casey Rislov. Casey, welcome to the Big Fat Podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for the warm welcome. I loved it. Thank you, Cole and Milo.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for coming on.
Yes, we're excited about this. And thank you for sharing your a little quick early release of your new book with us.
There it is.
Boom. A Home for Steamboat.
Yeah.
Hey, I read that and I loved it.
Yay, thank you.
I'm excited about this because, we are kind of history buffs, Cole and I. We're just kind of these small town, just guys who just like, I don't know. We get into these big, deep discussions. We love history about our area. We love history about the West and all of these things. And I guess normally we probably wouldn't, I don't know that what we would have in common or something about a children's author. But this book of yours and many of your books really kind of strike a chord. And so we thought this is great. This is a great fit to talk to you. And I was excited to talk to you and learn more about this. So thanks for coming on with us. How did you come up with this story? Why did this book you're about to release, it's coming out when? April 15th, correct?
Yeah, tax day. Trying to make tax day better.
I noticed that. I was like, yeah, okay.
It was kind of on purpose, just for fun. And books do release on Tuesdays. It's just one of the funny things about the publishing industry. So that's kind of how I picked it.
Every book releases on a Tuesday?
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Is that just tradition or is that like a rule?
Yeah.
Just tradition?
Yeah.
Huh.
Lots of rules with every industry, even the books world.
So this book on Steamboat, how did you come up with this idea? What was the inspiration for this book?
Well, it is based on Wyoming's logo that you see on the license plate, plus on every coffee mug we have, sticker, shirts. We kind of wear it proudly. If you've noticed, it's not just like the UW, University of Wyoming's logo. It's just everywhere. We wear it. It's our thing. So nobody had really told the story in a while, and definitely not so a family could understand it together, because if we're all going to wear it, even the children, we should probably know that the horse was real. Steamboat was his name, and the history behind it. And it is fascinating. It's one of those legends that's from the beginning, he blew up, and there's a lot of myths and all that stuff. It's hard to weed through it and know what's going on, because he was a big deal, and he still is.
He was a big deal. After reading your book, and I went to the back of it, and you give a history, a little history of Steamboat in there. So I actually got onto I have this new, I always do plugs for these people. I hope someday we're bigwigs and then they pay us for these plugs, but I have this newspapers.com account. Okay. So I got on there and I started researching, and I found all the old newspapers about from 1907 about Steamboat. And I sent one last night to Cole, and I'm like, I called him. It was late, right? It was like 9 p.m. I'm like, dude.
No, it was like 10:30. It was third period of the Oiler San Jose Sharks game.
Well, I sent him this. I'm like, dude, I found this old article, and I sent it to him. I think that one was from 1914, and it was actually like kind of an obituary. So what I learned about Steamboat was that, yes, he was a real horse, that your story really follows this very closely of kind of the real story of him. He was considered, some people, called him a demon horse. Some people, he was just this very wild horse that just couldn't be broken and couldn't be ridden. And there was a ton of hype around him. The paper that I found from 1914, that it is a huge long article on him after in 1914, and it's in Maine. And so they're covering him nationwide. I found that fascinating. And after he passes in 1914, then there was a lot of other horses that people, like every year, some rancher would come out with like, I got a horse that's the next Steamboat. He set the bar. And I found more news articles about other horses. There was a horse called Midnight that died in the 1930s that they were like, he was the closest thing to old Steamboat. Like even in the 1930s, they were still comparing to Steamboat. And this is all history that I just was completely oblivious of. How many times have we seen that horse on the license plate or University of Wyoming or these types of things? And I had no clue.
Yeah, it's a rabbit hole, isn't it? Because you're teaching me some things too, because it's a big one. I mean, because there's a military side to it from World War I. There's the University of Wyoming story, and then the license plate one too. And half the time, there's just a big mystery behind a lot of these stories. It blew up.
Yeah, it sure did.
It was all new to me. I didn't know anything about it. I always thought that the license plate and the horse and the Bronco came essentially because of Cheyenne Frontier Days. And I know he was in Cheyenne Frontier Days, but I just assumed that, it's got to be because it's one of the biggest rodeos that most people, even if you're not from the West, know about. So that's what I assumed until the other night. And now we have a whole history of the horse. So it is super cool.
Yeah. Cheyenne Frontier Days was his second rodeo. Mm-hmm. His first one was in Denver.
Okay.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know any of this. I deep dived on that and I found that out too. Yeah.
And rodeo was different back in the day. You didn't have chutes and stuff. Like the cowboy had to be brave, walk up to the middle of the arena on this horse, saddle him up and get on. Like it was a whole thing.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, I was like that. It's kind of like how they do the Indian relay races at a lot of the rodeos. A lot like that.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
You're just out there.
Just go get on it
and go. Yeah.
Well, it was a really big deal reading these newspaper articles about this horse and how people, he had I don't understand what it really was. I mean, I'm not a rodeo guy, but this horse, he did not allow people to ride him, and he threw everybody. All these papers, they're just going on and on about this. And it was, and I love how they write them. I wish I'd have had one pulled up right here. I'd read it. I think Cole has some of it up there. If you find a little interesting segment, man, you cut me off and you find it out there. But he was a really big deal. Now, I also found another story in there where there was an artist who took photos of him like in the last 2 years that he was around. And he actually was a guy who fought in the Civil War, got wounded, and it changed it so that I can't remember what he was trying to do for a living, but he never fully recovered from his injuries in the Civil War. And he ended up becoming an artist, and he ended up painting. There's a famous painting. I feel bad because I wasn't able to find it. I don't know if you've heard this guy's name. It was H.K. Saunders or something like this. And he did a famous painting of him. Anyway, I found this whole story interesting because he took several photos of Steamboat in action and then went back to Chicago and tried to do a painting. And he had been so focused on the horse that he didn't get good photos of the riders, and he actually tried to get models to come. He advertised for models to come, but he couldn't get the essence of a Wyoming cowboy in these guys who would show up. And then when he found out that they were going to put him down, he actually went out to Wyoming to see him in the last 2 days before. And I can't remember exactly what I read in the newspaper on that little moment right there, but he went out there to go see him because it was that important to him. And then he did a famous painting, and I had to get home late last night, and I didn't end up searching or finding this famous painting. But I guess my point here is he was that big of a deal at the time. He was that big of a deal to people all over the country. And I just think I think this is a neat way of what you're doing here of taking this story from not only your home state, but you're taking history and making that interesting to kids.
Well, thank you. Yeah, and we're hoping to families, because if we talk to a lot of adults, I think a lot of people in Wyoming know that the horse was real, but they don't know the stories behind it, our generation and down. And I feel like the older generations do, because they'll have their own stories to tell. I got this picture, and let me tell you, my uncle rode the horse, and we got a bunch of those. But I just feel like my generation down, we don't know the stories, and we need to if we're going to keep them alive.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the stories contribute so much to the culture. It is the culture of Wyoming. It's that cowboy Wild West culture. And I find that now, this is why, this is probably basic to you or anybody else, but the more we know about these things, the more appreciation, the more rich or full our experience is. So like, as I learn history about our area, as I drive around, I'm like, oh, now it's not just an empty drive anymore. It's like, oh, I know what happened up that coulee right there, because whatever, I read this book recently. But now when I see a license plate go by, so like you've just kind of changed everything for me. It's like, now I will always associate this license plate now with like, oh, the horse, the story behind that horse. Like, I'm gonna like annoy my kids or whoever I'm riding with forever, because I'll always now know that.
I like it.
Oh yeah,
the teacher in me is has made some influence on you, on adult.
Yeah,
and I honestly forgot last night that I was reading a book that was geared towards kids. I was just as enthralled in the book as I would if I was reading the Tom LaForge book that we just finished reading, or Billy Hamilton's book. I read it like twice. I was just like, I can't believe this is real.
Yeah.
So it engaged me, and I'm 40 years old.
That's great. I love hearing that, because we wanted it to be a family book. It is thicker than most books, children's books. Most are 32 pages. We did do 48, to add that history in there, and just that more artwork too. We just wanted it to be a good family book where you sit down and read it together. And the pages are thicker too. We made it more like a photo book on purpose, so it could be like a coffee table book.
That's awesome. Yeah. I can't wait to get the physical copy of it. I'm definitely going to get the physical copy. So
I appreciate that.
Yeah. I have one granddaughter, and if my other kids don't step up, this one granddaughter of mine is going to get super spoiled. And right. And so, I'm looking forward to getting that physical book. And that comes out on April 15th, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, you're going to be here, I believe. I was on your website, and I was looking at everything. It looks like you've got a whole bunch of signings coming up as well. And we did put those in the description of this video. If anybody's interested in that, we put all of the dates, times, locations in there. But you are going to be here in Billings on the 17th, correct?
Yes, I am. Yeah. Be there from 11 to about 12:30.
Okay. Awesome.
Barnes and Noble.
Okay. Because I'm going to make sure we get over there, and I want to get a book over there and want to get that signed as well. Looking forward.
Is that the only Montana location? Is the Barnes and Noble?
For right now. We've been to Bozeman and things like that too. I don't know if you noticed the dates right now. It was just that week. We just wanted to just get everybody excited and run around between Colorado, Montana, and Wyoming, because we're not even heading over to the west side of Wyoming just yet. It's harder to go over those mountain passes right now. Right. I'm like, I don't know if we can guarantee anything yet, but we're going to do more. So we're doing the runaround for the week to get everybody excited.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, it is. I'm looking forward to that. You brought up a second ago about wanting to put in more artwork. Let's talk about this. Cole and I, we both brought this up. We're like, man, I really like the artwork. We really like the artwork. So what is the story with this guy, Zach Poland? And I don't know what happened there. How did you hook up with this guy, and how does he nail it like this?
I know, right? I agree with you. I'm a huge fan. I was so lucky, I feel like, to even start working on books with him. So when he got out of college, he went to Ohio for art school. He never knew he was going to go into children's books. It's one of those things that just the world opened up to him. And so he did end up moving to New York to start doing books traditionally. And his first book happened to be, while he was in New York, a Western called The Toughest Cowboy. But he said he didn't even bother to tell the publisher. And I can't remember. It's one of the big ones. It was Penguin or something. He didn't bother to tell them that he was from Wyoming until he was done. He said it was the best feeling to turn in his toughest cowboy and be like, and by the way, I'm from Wyoming.
Yeah, it's in my DNA.
Yeah. So he was he's been doing it a long time. We're actually the same age, but I became a teacher first, and a lot of teachers do become authors. It is pretty common. It's just usually in retirement because there's no time. But I went for it, and with him being in the same town, he's been a great person to reach out to and have him help me. And he's guided me from the beginning of my story, which was in 2011. And he's just been amazing. I mean, his first book was a hit. He actually just had his 20-year on that book, The Toughest Cowboy, because it's done so well still. They did another re-release and made it a big deal this last summer.
Wow. I don't understand what it is. I don't know all the terminology about art and artwork. Okay. But the characters he creates, there's something different about them. And they have some depth. Like each one of them has its own story. I don't know. Like I don't know how to explain it. But I noticed that when I was reading the book last night, I was really looking at all of the different characters, and it's interesting. He has an interesting style about him. I don't know what the name of that style is. Do you know?
Like caricature. So here's like one. Get it.
There it is.
There it is.
Oh.
Right.
Yeah, okay. So now that you say caricature, I can see that. But it's not like your caricature that you see on the side of when you're traveling to the big city or something like that. There's just, like you said, a lot of depth to it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of depth.
There it is. Yes.
Yeah.
Like
so his detail is just crazy, but then it's the faces what he changes. Yeah.
Yeah, they all are like almost like kind of oversized heads, oversized noses, but I don't know. It's
cowboy one.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, look at the chef.
Yeah.
Yes.
The detail in those. They're beautiful.
They are.
That's why I take pictures with a camera, because I cannot draw at all.
I know, thank goodness for people like Zach. But he has a longer story. He has a lot of books, and he's got a lot of great paintings. So he's definitely known in our state. So I'm glad you guys enjoy him too. He's great, and he's a great mentor. He mentors a lot of people, artists and people into books. So he's a wealth of knowledge since he's been doing it from the get-go.
Wow. Well, I think that's really great because, I was thinking back when I was a kid. I have a thing for reading anyway. I love reading, and I read every day. But as a kid, I don't know. You just connect. I started to think back on that, I think as we get older, we forget how powerful children's books are. But I think as a kid, I mean, I don't know. I think, I don't know. There's things I can remember when I was a kid that so many of these books, you kind of get just lost in those books. And that the illustrations, the story of it all, it takes you to a different place. And I found that that's the same thing with this, like with this book that you've got here. And I looked at your Rowdy Randy and all those books, same thing. It's a place to go get lost in these things. So
and Rowdy Randy. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I said Rowdy Randy definitely fits Montana too, because really that whole story was based off the wildlife and everything that people come to visit in our states.
Yes.
If you think about it, we are definitely a worldwide destination. One of the top ones in the U.S. for our wildlife. So it just started with that, and then I just have a crazy character, causing the chaos because kids like that. Like, what's this character going to do now? So Horsefly was perfect for that.
Yeah, it was, and he nailed all those illustrations as well. I thought that was super. I did order. Which book did I order? I ordered one of them. It was a bear family, but I was going to order the actual physical books of the Rowdy Randy series because I feel like, okay, these are books that I want to be able to read to my grandkids, someday. And not just saying that with you here, that's a real thing. Like, I'm looking forward to that, and so there's select books like that I would like to be a part of that. These are that style of book where the illustrations and the story are good enough that you can look forward to those moments. So you got to really
pull that book out because he did the caricature stuff with the animals. Just because you were interested in his here's the dog. Woo, it's hard to.
Yes.
Yeah.
And their horseflies doing like ninja moves.
And the screen, this like the picture, like I don't know, we're losing some of the depth of the color of this, but yes, you can kind of get the gist of it. But there's so much detail and so much personality and character and everything. So
yeah,
you got to
so I
nail
think
that.
it's fun that he does it to both animals and people.
And
the
people, yeah.
characters.
Some of their
Well,
features are
bugs.
over exaggerated features and very detailed, but yeah, solid stuff. Yeah.
So a lot of humor in his stuff that's hidden. Like you have to look.
Yeah.
It makes you look again.
So we can actually pull up. Let's pull up right there in the center of that, right there, Zach, our guy Zach, right here. He can pull up some Rowdy Randy. I'll direct here, right? Okay. I don't know if you can see these popping up here, but right in the center of screen, center left there is the Rowdy Randy images. Yes. And you can see those too. Casey, can you see those?
Oh yeah. Yeah. They look great. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to order these books. I think they're awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I
have a 7-year-old that she's going to love these books, and I'm going to get them for her as well.
Yeah.
So I mean, she was a bend last night, but I could have got a 7-year-old review.
I know.
On the book if she could have read it, but it's not the same on my phone as the PDF. So I'll go get the book when you come to Barnes and Noble and have her read it.
Yeah, and Zach will be there. So that's what's exciting about this tour too. He's coming with me because you don't always get illustrators at all of these things. So yeah, and I actually just sent him a message because I think he's done with his meeting. Like, hey, the live thing's going on.
Oh yeah, yeah. We could send him the link.
Yeah,
we can invite him.
Yeah.
Yeah, that same link we sent to you. If you want to send that to him,
I will.
We can add that in.
So I have a couple of questions for you. If we're going to invite Zach in, so I'm a school resource officer, so I work in the schools every day. Where is this transition? And my oldest daughter is graduating this year, and she's actually dead set on elementary ed. So she's probably listening right now, loving every second. Where is this transition from elementary education teacher to author? Because it's fascinating to me.
Oh, was it? Yay. No, because I didn't expect to go down this path at all. I was teaching special needs and early childhood over at the development center, and I was doing the 5-year-olds, and I become the PE teacher, the art teacher, the outside person. Like, you get to do it all, and it's a lot of fun. Well, I found one of my favorite things was getting lost in children's books, and you can read the big books. You can do an audio book. I made sure I changed it all the time. Go get the puppets that go with the book. And I just got lost in that world and changed it up for the kids. And then my mind, after getting comfortable teaching, because that's so specialized, doing, early childhood special needs, because you have therapists and stuff in your room all the time. So it takes you a while to kind of get your bearings. But it just started coming to me. I couldn't stop thinking about stuff without knowing that that's the way I wanted to go. So that's where it was for me. And so, that quote that they always say, good readers make good writers. Well, I'm a perfect example of that, because I never planned on going this route, but I was like, well, I got about 30 ideas. Might as well try. So
is it just a jump in with both feet, or?
Not right away. A couple of years after, the mind was going. And then I did have a big life event. My mom had passed. She was sick for a year. And so I feel like sometimes those really big moments, they kind of push you, because, your time is precious. And I think it was that push, because I think in the end, if my mom hadn't passed, maybe I would have waited like a lot of teachers do, because you don't have a lot of time. I know college professors can do it. It's part of their deal, I think, half the time at the universities. Yeah. But like an elementary teacher and stuff, no, there's not enough time. And special needs, there's plenty of paperwork. There is not time for that. So yeah, I think it was that push in life, which happens. Awesome. Yeah. So kind of in her honor, because she was a teacher too, and she always enriched my world with books. I could sit on my floor and read, because she had me set up. I don't know if you remember the clubs that we used to have, because I think I'm around your guys' age. Was like you could have the Mickey Mouse books, and he was Aladdin, and he was this and that. So I had that collection, and then of course the Dr. Seuss, and so I remember getting lost in those worlds. And those books used to be, well, I mean, they're still around, long too, like the Steamboat, where books are shorter now, but you'd be lost in those worlds for a while.
Yeah. I remember like the one that we always had was Boxcar Children. And that
Yeah.
might be that might be like 5th, 6th grade level, but
Mhm.
I had the Boxcar Children growing up.
Huh. You know what? I remember, like, I honestly, I can go back to like 1st, 2nd grade of like, I don't know what teacher it was, but we got into those Clifford or the Big Red Dog
Mm-hmm.
books, you know? And
They're still popular.
yeah. And then like, I don't know why, but whenever they shut the lights off in the room or half the lights off in the room, as a kid, you're like, this is cool. Like, like the teacher would shut off, like, I don't know why, but those little things like that, all of a sudden you're just like, okay, now we're doing something cool. Like, you go back to those moments, and those were always my favorite moments.
Oh, those are the ones I remember. I mean, I remember reading time because we'd get to go sit on the big rug.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we couldn't wait for the teacher to she'd read the book, and the way elementary teachers read, they the books over here on the side and they flip the pages, and you're just like, I can't wait to see what's on the next page. And as a 2nd and 3rd grader, and I see that now in Delaney, my 1st grader, and she's just finished last night. She was like, Dad, I'm on chapter 6 of her little book that she's reading. And it was like the most exciting thing for her to be on chapter 6.
Yeah.
So I think it's awesome. And I think the cool thing about this book is that it incorporates history.
Yes.
At that age level, which we're both history nerds already. We've already said that. And I went to college. I wanted to be a history teacher. I ended up being a cop, but whatever. But the history aspect of this book is just, I'm super excited for it because I think that's something that's lacking a lot in our education system, being in the schools as I am as a school resource officer. And we've talked about it before on the podcast numerous times that we need to figure out a way to get this younger generation interested in history, and I think if you can start at that level, that younger level, and I think this book that you wrote is the way to do that, because it was fascinating to me. And like I said, I'm an adult, so I can't imagine what it's going to be like when the little kids are reading this book.
Well, thank you for saying that. I agree. And I feel like, I think I agree with you. I love history too, especially the older I get. You're just like, it's fascinating because you guys went down the rabbit hole of Steamboat. You even taught me a few things. I'm excited. I get to go to the University of Wyoming next week, and I hang out with the history buff there in their museum about Steamboat. And he's like, I'm going to tell you some more stories, because I definitely want those old time photos when I go to classrooms, because my favorite part once I get the book is to go to the classrooms. So I hey, can I? And he already said, yep, you can have those photos, because you're right. He was there's a lot of photos on this guy, and the newspapers ate him up. And I think I had told you earlier too. I mean, presidents came out to see him, President Teddy Roosevelt and Howard Taft, and then Buffalo Bill Cody. So, yeah. And William Howard Taft. Sorry.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's awesome. I didn't realize all that. I didn't know those guys had all come out there too. So he was a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the legendary stories, Buffalo Bill Cody, when I was going down rabbit holes too, Buffalo Bill Cody thought about purchasing this horse for his big show, because he was a big deal too. And but the time that the writer noticed that he was not going to be able to do anything with his horse because he was just a rodeo horse, he put $2,000 down. Think how much that was back then in early 1900. He retracted that just as fast as he put it down. And he's like, yeah, he's not going to work in our show.
Where's my phone? I want to find out, like,
with inflation, what $2,000 today would have been for the horse.
Oh yeah, 100%. Let's, you know where I'm going.
I know exactly where you're going.
Okay, we're going there.
Yeah.
Hey, Ara, enlighten me. Hey, by the way, say hi to Casey Rislov, because we're doing a podcast with her, and also tell me how much $2,000 in 1900 would have been today.
Hi, Casey Rislov. We're excited to have you on the podcast. As for your question, $2,000 in 1900 would be worth about $70,000 today, adjusted for inflation.
That's incredible. Thank you for piping in and being prepared to just be on the podcast at just a moment's notice. I'm sorry to put you in that position.
Nice to meet you.
Oh, I'm happy to jump in and help out. Glad I could shed some light on that for you.
All right, don't get chatty. We'll get back to you. Okay. We did a whole episode with AI recently where we had a conversation with her for like over an hour. It was fascinating.
No, I've never done that. So that was fun.
Holy mackerel. Okay. So that was $2,000 would have been like $70,000 today.
I know, right? Because that's what came to my mind right away. As soon as I read that story, I was like, what? That's a lot. Buffalo Bill Cody meant business. He wanted that horse. But I heard the retraction was just as fast when his writer was like, yeah, that's not going to work out for me.
Wow.
That's insane.
Mm-hmm. He was a huge horse, Steamboat. He was massive.
Do they say how many hands it was? He was.
I don't know off that top of my head, but I know he definitely got I should look it up what kind of horse, because he got how big he was from his dad.
Yeah.
Oh,
and he got a spunk from his mom. She was a Mexican hot blood. I know hers because that's just a fun name for a horse. I didn't even know there was a Mexican hot blood, right? So he got a spunk from his mom. And I heard when you start going down that rabbit hole too, how his parents, because remember, they didn't breed back then for rodeo horses, right? And so, because in fact, he was going to be a cattle horse is what he was bought for originally, but they're like, we can't break this horse. He does not need to be doing this. But I guess if you look, his bloodlines, they still like to use those bloodlines for rodeo horses. It was just a great combination. A little bit of spunk and a lot of large.
Wow.
Yeah, that's awesome. Part of the, and he was out in the Chugwater Range, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is where they found him. He was a 2-year-old.
Look at you.
Yeah.
2-year-old when they got him.
Throwing around Chugwater Range. Look at you doing homework.
I did my homework after you sent me a news article interrupting my hockey game.
Holy mackerel.
I love that news article. You'll have to send that to me. That stuff you found.
I'll send it. I took a bunch of clippings and I was dealing with technical difficulties. Not that we ever have technical difficulties. It's standard. It's standard fare for us with technical difficulties. But anyway, I wanted to have a bunch of those and I was going to bore you with those. I was going to read a bunch of articles. But I found all these fascinating clippings and I can definitely forward those on to you.
Cindy's got a good question in the chat.
Yeah, let's bring that up. So Cindy Waltner, thank you.
Hi, Mom.
Hey, how long did he live and was he then put out to pasture? I'll let you handle this one.
It is a tough one. He was born in 1896, like you said, in the Chugwater region of Wyoming, which is not too far off of Cheyenne. I'd say about an hour. And he passed away in 1914. So he was not an old horse. He did get injured. It was during a storm, and as horses get scared pretty easy, and ran into a fence. And I feel like with horses, if it's anything legs and stuff, you just can't fix them. So, and they say he's buried under the Cheyenne Frontier Days Stadium. So, but I don't know if should we tell the story of what happened first, or we'll just leave it nice.
No, let's go deep. There's no kids watching this.
Well, they do say he was put in the Cheyenne dump at first. So, but then they realized he needed a little more glorified burial. So some people still claim that he was never taken out of the dump, but most people say he's buried under the Cheyenne Frontier Days Stadium.
Hey, that's more romantic. But when you go back to that time period, I know he was a big deal, but also, I don't know, in the moment, do we really appreciate or do we really, I don't know, give it respect or give whatever to the things that we have in the moment? Like now you look back on it and now he's revered and now there's epic stories and there's paintings and there's the license plate and all this other stuff. But at the time they're like, what do we do with this? Right. So it's very possible that it wasn't so romantic. Right.
Yeah. Craig Johnson. I'm reading his book about Steamboat right now, but it's the military side of the story because he was painted on World War I airplanes, the Steamboat symbol. And so, but Craig Johnson, when he goes into it in the book, he just says that it was still in the dump. This character believes whatever one of his main characters. It just made me chuckle because most people do not want to say that.
Oh, wow. I couldn't find out how or what happened. So I'm glad you told me about there was a storm and he got cut on something, probably a fence, because all I could read was that he had blood poisoning and that's why they had to put him down. So I was kind of like, how did he get blood poisoning? And so I don't know if that was even factual. So, but I don't know. I don't know if fake news was I guess fake news was a thing back then too, right?
Probably.
You never know if it
Totally.
was, right? Or odds are. So,
Right?
yeah.
Gotta
So
make the story bigger. Like
What's that?
gotta make the story bigger, just like telling a fish story. I mean,
Yeah.
come on.
Yeah. No, for sure. No, I love all those behind the scenes things and all the little things. Makes like I say, makes the story richer to find out.
Mhm.
Yeah. What are all those other things back behind there?
See, that's one of those myths. Remember, I told you there's a lot of myths about this horse because you got so many stories colliding. And so
Yeah.
trying to figure out the details it can be pretty tough.
And we all know, and from all the stuff that we've done historical wise around here, cowboys are the essential truth sayers.
Right.
Yeah.
You know,
And
out on the
storytellers. Yeah.
range. And storytellers. They're storytellers. Don't know how much truth is in a lot of their stories, but
Right. They got
Yeah.
some time on the horse to think
that's
about.
right.
Well, yeah. And I mean, yeah, you got time out there, and these guys were known for, I mean, tall tales and things like that. Cole over there, he has a bromance with Jeremiah Johnson, actually, AKA John Johnson, not AKA, that's his real name, was
His real-
John Johnston.
real name,
But,
yeah.
Jeremiah Johnson. Anyway, he has a book about him that, I mean, I read that book too, and I was just like, what? This guy did what? But then when you go and you really research it, you find out that, yeah, these were all just legends of the time, and that people kind of inflated this guy, his reputation during that time period. And I really do think that was almost like a sport back then, was tall tales and how to exaggerate these things and make them more exciting. So
Think about all our outlaws.
Yeah.
There's
Oh,
a
yeah.
lot of stories behind all our outlaws.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Well, and I think it had to, almost maybe it was a necessary part of the time because we didn't have pictures. We didn't have movies at that time, or we can make a movie whatever we want with whatever special effects we can. I mean, look at Avatar for, there's a whole world that they create. Jurassic Park, one of my favorite movies. They create this whole world. They had to do it by telling stories. And so why wouldn't that translate into, here's the truth about Steamboat, this horse, but when we're sitting around a campfire out on the range, waiting for calves to drop, I'm going to tell you the story that I want to hear. And so I'm going to make this horse a legend type
Right.
thing,
Mhm.
Yeah. So in the comment section, Cool Property says, I have a horse buried under my guest house.
Adding to
story.
that. I wonder if the horse comes to haunt. I've not heard of horse haunting.
Does the horse come to haunt? I mean, yeah, that's interesting right there.
Right. There goes some stories.
Yeah. No, that's it. That's incredible.
So where did the idea come from to
For
write a
Steamboat?
children? Where did the idea come from to write a story about Steamboat, a children's book about Steamboat?
Well, actually, it came from a good friend. We've been doing a celebrity thing lately to showcase the book. It's the fly
Mhm.
fishing guide. His name's Ryan Anderson because fishing's really big, Wyoming, Montana, right?
Right.
And he just one day after I gotten into books, about 5 books, and he's like, "Yeah, nobody's told the story of Steamboat. I think you should do that." So it stayed in my head and I brought it up to Zach right away because I already knew we were working on Rowdy Randy together. I was like, oh, that'd be fun to do with him. So we let it marinate for it's 2025 now. And that was 2015 when that book came out. So about 10 years, we let that story marinate. Well, it's big and it's kind of, it's a big one and you got to do it right. And you got to do it justice because if he's that beloved, if I don't, I'll hear about it. And also, I want to do justice.
Yeah.
Okay. So that brings me, now I'm thinking this, like, as you're thinking about telling a story or writing a book, how soon does the illustrations and all that stuff come into play for you in the planning of such a thing? So in other words, do you tell the story, then you go and figure out the illustrations, or are you picturing this at the beginning? Are you planning this project in tandem at the same time? Do you see what I'm getting at?
Oh yeah, we get that asset a lot. So children's books are really interesting because it does start with words first. Now, since Zach and I are collaborating, which I do want you to know that most illustrators and authors are not collaborating in this way.
Mhm.
We did keep most of it traditional though. So traditional is the author writes their story, and then when it's time for it to be passed on, an editor's seen it, right? Then the illustrator will get it. And they never let you have contact with each other because in picture books, 50% of the story needs to be in the illustrations and the other half needs to be in the words. So for an author, I can describe all I want, but if the illustrator, which chances are, they're going to paint the landscape, they're going to do that stuff. Those are the words you're going to pull out. So a lot of adjectives and stuff are pulled out. If I want it to look a certain way, I need to say that from the beginning, but they want to tell their own story. So Zach we get together and he's helped me move this story along. He's one of my group collaborators on both Rowdy Randy's and this Home for Steamboat. But he's only got a few things going on in his head, but he says it's like a movie for him. So he's already got some big ideas, and he would express a few of them on this book. Like he already knew he wanted the last page to be the Wyoming license plate. Now, did we have to fudge on it? Yes, because the main character, Charlie Irwin, died before that license plate was put out. And we're saying he's the grandfather telling the story. So there's areas but it's historical fiction. So we can change a few things like that. So he had that in his mind. Of course, we need the climax to be a big rodeo, taking the cowboy off, showing what he can do. And then this story is almost, I would say almost like Disney-like in the fact that you have really ups and downs. I mean, Steamboat has his life that's starting out great. His youth is great, but there's a point where his life is really down because he is not a cattle horse. There's nothing wrong with being a cattle horse, but he was not. And so we really play on those emotions. And I don't know how much children get books like that anymore, where you get into these really deep emotions and, this wasn't working out. And then he gets the right person, Charlie Irwin, which really was his owner during his glory days. He saw him at Cheyenne Frontier Days, which was the second rodeo. And Charlie knew he had to have that horse. So he bought it from that Swan Land Ranch Company, and they let him have it, and he had him till the end. And obviously it was a good partner in life because Steamboat had a lot of glory days in that rodeo.
Yeah, he did. Do we know how much Charlie bought him for?
I don't, but it makes you want to know, right? Yeah.
I think we'll try to find that. There might be something somewhere.
Yeah, there might be. I think that's fascinating that you said, though, that the publishers typically kind of keep the writers and the illustrators separate. Is that kind of what you were getting at, what you said there?
Yes, and we still tried to do that, except for I did come in with the story because he is fun to collaborate with, because he helps me bring in a bunch of layers. In fact, one of his suggestions was we were trying to figure out what point of view we wanted this to be. And he did come up with the idea. It was my very last edit. He goes, why don't we tell it from Charlie Irwin's point of view? Have him being a grandfather telling the story to his granddaughter. That was actually his idea.
I'm just kind of blown away that that's kind of a thing, that they keep the writers and the illustrators separate. Because to me, that only makes sense that you are you should be able to kind of have that input with the illustrator of what, you're writing the words and everything, but you should have that input about tone, about what, just even the colors, the tone, how light or dark or things like that, or whatever. Not just the scene, but just the whole tone of the whole thing. And I would think that would be only natural to be a collaboration between a writer and an illustrator.
You would think that, and I thought that's how the business would run too. But giving them the freedom, you will get the best work. Think about anything. If you hire anybody for business, if you just let them have a wedding, right? All of a sudden you're like, I want these. If you get too picky about stuff, it's just not, it's not fun for that person in there. He wants to tell his story or her the way they want to tell it. And like I said, the first words that are going to come out is a lot of that scenery and all those descriptions. So if I do want specific stuff, if I want the scenery a certain way, I'm allowed to write that from the beginning. I just, it'll just be the things that are taken out though, because you don't want it to be redundant, because that's not fun, to read what you see.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. That makes sense then. Yeah, you would want, I mean, I know the illustrator I know these guys are probably, they would want that freedom to be like, oh, this is what I, kind of where I want to go with it. Mm-hmm. But I guess on some level, you'd think there'd be some more collaboration than just keeping them all separate. Because what if you write a book and then you're dealing with a publisher and they bring in an illustrator and you're just like, I don't like where they took this, I mean, is that
Well, there is say at the beginning, you know what I mean? Because you do need to pick, like, I mean, you have people who do like the watercolor. I mean, it can be any art medium because in the end, it's all going to be a picture that goes into the computer, right? I mean, that's what's going to happen. So from the beginning, you do need to make sure it's a good pairing. So there is that conversation with the author, because I would say my first couple of books were definitely a watercolor artist, and I knew that's what I wanted, you know. And then with Zach, I already knew the Western. I mean, I fell in love with his first book too, so I knew he was perfect to do my Rowdy Randy and the Steamboat book.
Yeah, and looking at those other books too, like, I mean, as much as we like this illustrator, you're right, though. I mean, maybe that wouldn't have been such a fit then for those stories. Maybe, you know, like I said, because the watercolors feel natural. When you look at those, I'm like, oh, yeah, that just was meant to be. So, I don't know. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I think most of us don't think about, you know, we just grab a children's book, we grab it up and start reading it to somebody, but you don't really think about all the stuff that goes into these.
Right. Yeah. And a lot is at the beginning. There's just, before anybody's going to start really going, you got to have some conversations.
Yeah. No, that is interesting. Do you have anything in the works now? I mean, I know you're just coming out with this, but do you have something in mind? Are you going in a certain direction, or are you just like, whew, I got that all done and, you know, not even to that point yet? What's going on?
Well, I always have the next one, because I feel like with Steamboat, you know, we might do a little bit more with it. I mean, maybe we make a little board book with it and things like that. That would be fun. And then our Rowdy Randy, we were having so much fun with that horsefly, because I mean, she's an ornery character. You can always, you're second guessing, what is she doing next? So something little causing something big all the time. So we want to do more with that. Plus, her sidekick is the jackalope, and you know, they're mysterious and you know, don't know what they're really doing or what they're thinking. So we might have to have a fun jackalope side of the story with Rowdy Randy, because she thinks she's pretty tough and she's all that. But I think the jackalope has, you know, his own side of the story.
Awesome. So you are going to carry on, and that's going to be a continued. We're going to see more of those.
Right. Oh, the kids love it. I mean, they say yeehaw at my things and everything. And I have a character. So we were lucky after when COVID hit, a friend we grew up with, he was a pretty well-known puppeteer, and he was in New York. Well, New York's a little tough for COVID, right? So he came back and he moved next door to Zach, and we have, like, I'm not kidding, a Disney head of Rowdy Randy. So I can get someone to dress the rodeo cowboy part, because we have all the chaps, everything, and then add that big green head, and the kids eat it up. And they're more than happy to yell yeehaw with her and get roped by her and whatever.
Oh, wow. Wow. So how long on that type of a deal on Rowdy Randy? So we have a question in the comment section, as far as like, how long from the time you have the idea to the time a book is completed?
It's probably really that 2-year process. But when I'm getting really serious, and I know, because I'm going to say, especially since my stuff is dealing with history, or I'm getting into real stuff, because even in Rowdy Randy, I am, because the second book has Buffalo Bill Cody hiding, and she has her own Wild West show, which is based off of Buffalo Bill Cody. But I'm proving the fact that maybe you got the idea from the animals, because animals have talents too. So I researched all the animals that I could think of in Wyoming, Montana and stuff, and what their talents would be. And I started with the hummingbirds, because I found out that they fly upside down and backwards. So I was like, they're a show starter, and the elk are bugling, so that's going to start the show. But I have to do a research first, right, and get all my fun stuff written down. And Zach and I both start with paper and pencil right away. Like, he's sketching them, and that's later, of course. His part's later, but we both start that way, old school, get all my ideas down. And when I feel like I've done enough research, which is fun. I mean, how fun is it to research on wildlife or history of a horse and stuff? Then when I get serious about writing, it's probably about a 6 to 9 month, like, you know, because you just have all that creative energy and all those words. And I still have to study that Western language too, because I might live in Wyoming, but people don't talk like what you're reading in my books, especially my Rowdy Randys. So that's a fun rabbit hole to go down too. It's just the Western language alone.
Yeah, for sure.
We've talked about that quite a bit, because we read the old news articles or reading biographies from some of the mountain men and trappers around here, and the way that they talk in these biographies, when they're, you know, when the biographer's writing down verbatim what they said. Yeah, we don't talk like that anymore at all.
But it's fun, and the kids like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a whole different medium. It's a whole, I don't know, they get really flowery and very, I don't know if it's just that period, that Victorian era or something. I don't know what it was, but people were pretty proud of it when they could come up with a lot of big words to describe a very like a simple action. It's almost like today everybody's in a race to shorten things as much as we can and use the least amount of words. And it's not very interesting, I feel. But back then, man, everything they said and everything, it was an art.
It's beautiful. And I noticed they love to use alliteration. And so you're getting into all those things that you learned in English, but you never did much except for that assignment. And so see what rabbit holes I have to go down, but it's a blast. I enjoy it. So I have my word list going on because I got my ranch words. I got my horse words. There's just a lot. Landscape, animal. I get all my lists going. And a lot of it's reading, whether it's a poetry, like you said, they love cowboy poetry is beautiful. You'll get those great scenery words, which again, they'll rip from me like half the time, but that's okay. At least then the illustrator knows that this is a beautiful place or a harsh place or whatever's going on. And then I read other, just Westerns. Like I do like Craig Johnson and stuff. So I just make sure I'm reading all sorts of genres to get my words and my enrichment of the Western world. Because I live in it, but you still have to pull yourself back and immerse it in a different way. Because I'm living in modern, and I'm in Casper, and it's one of the two big cities, so I'm still living a city life too. But I have tons of rancher friends. Like I am going out to ranches and stuff, but it's not my everyday, and it's a different life.
Yeah, 100%. There are levels to this, I'm realizing now. So like when you're planning a project like this, do you go in, because I feel like children's books are just different. I think if you're writing for adult audiences, you don't even have to think about this, but do you think about what level you're going to be writing this for? So like out of the question in the comment section, like what grade level is like this book, Steamboat? What do you go in ahead of time shooting for a certain grade level, or with any of your books? Do you have that in mind, or do you go in with or are you just like, here, I'm going to tell this story in general for kids, or do you like dial it in for a certain level of kid?
I think with these Western books we did. I've noticed each one has gotten a little higher. I would say my Rowdy Ranch, you can do kindergarten because it's that Western language and stuff that makes it for those older kids to still read third grade. Now Steamboat, since it is longer, I'd say it's more first to like fifth grade. We made it a family book on purpose because, as you heard me say, even a lot of people around me don't know the story behind Steamboat, adults, and that's what we wanted. So I've noticed each book Zach and I keep doing, the language keeps getting a little higher, but I don't know, like we were talking, our books back in the day when we were reading, there was a lot of words. I just feel like reading levels have really changed, and why not still have those books that it is higher level? For these, because there are kindergartners and first graders and second graders who can read at a high level. And then there's still the kids in fourth, fifth grade that enjoy a good picture book still. And I don't get offended when I have that, because I do visit the older elementary too, and I don't get offended if the kid is like, I just can't do it, because some kids become too cool for picture books. But I just feel like we hit that niche that's not being hit very often anymore. We're getting, the advanced readers.
Yeah, I think the using the higher level words, I mean, it gives another opportunity for question and answers. If you're a parent and you're reading these to your kid, or if they are reading them on their own, I think it's good to push kids. Like, I think it's good to, try to nudge them toward a higher level. I don't know. So
I agree too, because I feel like we were reading those books. Yeah.
Oh, I'm all for it. I agree. I think the reading levels have, I don't want to say dumbed down, but we've lowered the standard or the threshold, I think, in elementary education since when we went to school. And so I am super excited to see that you're writing these books, for that first to fourth grade level, but it's some of it's a challenge. And I think that's a good thing. I think we need to challenge kids even at that age. Right. And who doesn't like picture books at fourth grade? I like picture books still.
Yeah.
Especially when there's a lot of detail, like Zach's illustrations. There's always something to go back and look for. And I already told you, a lot of it's got some humor in there. You're not always catching it. So when you go back, you might catch it the next time.
Yeah. No, there is a ton of detail. And I found myself looking around a lot and just trying to absorb it all. There was a lot going on. So
And I
that's
tried to make
great.
my words that way too. And all those, and the Rowdy Randy, and I have the layers, as you can hear, you know what I mean? I want to describe what's going on in the scenery. I have it told from a different point of view. I have different emotions. And each one of those I tell kids is a creative edit too. So, because I want writing to be fun too. I'm just like, when you go back in, don't just do periods and commas. And yes, those are important, but each time you go back in, what's another thing you could add? And just stay stuck on that. Because I feel like with creativity, sometimes you can get all over the board and that's not going to help you with your story. You can write those ideas down, but just go back in with one idea. And like I just told you, my last one which was Zach's idea, let's tell it from Charlie Irwin's point of view. And really, he's only at the beginning and at the end. But it really just was a nice tie that it was his grandfather telling a story to his granddaughter about the legend of Steamboat. That was his best friend. And you want to hear about it? And she did.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I'm thinking to myself, did you have authors that when you were growing up, let's say middle school, high school, whatever, that you did you stick with any authors? Did you read a lot at that time? Then you kind of stuck in a certain area or genre? Well,
you heard my picture book ones. It's funny to say that though, but I did like Mickey Mouse's Aladdin and stuff like that. And I did like Dr. Seuss's wacky words and his wacky illustrations. Because if you think about it, everything was just wacky. He had his own world made up. Nobody's going to do better. And I know we talk about rhyming, but really just everything was wacky. And I think that's why you get to stare at it. But I was your typical, like when you got to middle school, I liked the Valley High girls or whatever, the twins having the pool parties in California, because I lived in Wyoming and we don't own pools. And I wanted to do the pool parties.
Yeah.
Right. And then of course it's like after that, your teachers are still like reading To Kill a Mockingbird and stuff like that. I feel like the older you got, they were having you read more of those kinds of books, which I'm glad they still do have kids read those books, because they do put you in a time and place. That's why they win those awards. You don't realize it when you're a kid why those stories are important, but like you just said, the history piece, when those authors can put you in a time and a place, then you've done your job. And not many, I don't think, can do quite that, like To Kill a Mockingbird. So
well, some of those
books like classic then,
like you bring up To Kill a Mockingbird, it depends on what phase of life you're in when you read it. I feel like you relate to it at a different time. Like you you read it when you're young, but you don't really understand. And they're trying to teach you some of the concepts of what's kind of the deeper meanings of what's going on in there. But I kind of feel like, as with any of these stories, you can read it at a later time in life and the story means something completely different to you. I think about that all the time with, it's a movie, but my favorite Christmas movie is It's a Wonderful Life. So you watch it when you're a kid and it's one thing. And then you watch it when you're a little bit older and the movie kind of the story hits different. And then you get older and you're like, oh yeah, when he takes that thing off the stairs and, he's so frustrated and he slams that, like, I'm like, oh yeah, I relate with him now. Now I'm there. Like, you relate with stories it's the same story, but you relate with it differently at each period of your life. And I feel like that's also what makes some of those stories good, is like, yeah, you can relate no matter what period or phase you are in your life, you relate to it in a different way. So
that's a really good point of view. I hadn't thought about that. I mean, I'm sure I have, but that's why it sticks around. It's not just like you said, it's not just the time and place. It is the fact that you can go back to any time period.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, and that goes to say, like, for Steamboat, I didn't look at it as a children's book after the first page. I wanted to know the history of this horse and what made this whole emblem and what made this icon of Wyoming. And so I looked at it almost purely from a history standpoint after the first page, after the grandpa, after the granddaughter wanted to know the story. I mean, to me, I just kind of switched in my head and it was a history book to me. It wasn't a children's book. And I know kids aren't going to look at it that way, but at my age, that's where I went with it.
Right.
So,
yeah.
But you never know with the adult that's with them, though. They might, like, the grandpa. Yeah. It won't for everybody, because like you said, the parents that are learning the story, but there are still people alive who know some stories. So that would be neat for that child who's like, oh, let me tell you a little more.
When you were writing this, did you interview or talk to anybody that was around when Steamboat was around?
No, but I've run into people who like will have a picture and they're like, oh yeah, so and so rode Steamboat, and it was a big deal. So no,
So-
this is the book I got a lot of it's so hard. Okay,
I know.
referrals.
Mirror
Yes.
effect.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, and they're Wyoming writers too, and it's been out for a while. But they have all the wonderful pictures and history, and it gets into all the different stories. And of course, I did some more research too. But there was just so many great things in this book alone. And I know Zach, that's what he likes looking at too. So it's Steamboat, Legendary Bucking Horse by Candy Vivey Moulton and Flossie Moulton, and it's still out because it's still in production. Because I know it's been out for a while, but it's people want to buy it because it has that history and it's a quick read. It's great. It's great because it has some of those outlaws and stuff. Because of course Steamboat was around during the outlaws, so it'll get into some of that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, and he had many names, and they called him an old outlaw. That I found in the newspaper. They were just one of the questions also in the comment section there was about how did he get his name. So because I know they called him many things, but how did he get that name of Steamboat?
That's in the book though.
Mm-hmm. It's a good one.
We want to. Are we gonna?
Yeah,
we're not going to do any spoilers.
No.
Okay, no spoilers tonight. You have to purchase the book to find out. His name.
Oh, well, I can say it's one of his big stories in the book for sure. Yeah. It within the historical fiction and then in the back. Yeah.
Okay, another question from the comment section. Do you see yourself writing for I know you were kind of throwing an age group out there for this book, kind of younger age group, but do you see yourself kind of graduating up toward, we're not graduating, but writing for older kids, middle school, high school? Do you see yourself kind of writing anything like that for them, or do you really enjoy this elementary school age range?
I'm really enjoying, I think, picture books in general. I feel like with this book, though, I could easily go to middle school and high school with, because of all the layers I use in this book and all those edits. So I actually hope we do get asked to go to high schools and junior, because I haven't done a lot of that elementaries, because I just feel like I can get them excited about writing and realize, pictures do help the visuals. But I don't know. I would never say no, but I'm definitely in love with illustrations with the book. There is nothing like handing my words over and then getting a beautiful book. And I get to watch it, get unveiled as it goes too. I get to see the sketches. Well, first he starts with all these little note cards to storytell. And he has an editor too, the illustrator does. They're called they have a fancy name. They're an editor, art director. They get a fancy name. But they're the same thing. And so he has to tell the story too correctly, because you just heard me, he's telling his own story. So he does all these note cards and pencil draws, and it's 32 pages usually. This was 48. And then they go back and forth if that's how they think the story is a good place to tell from illustrations. And so I get to see it from that. And then he's drawing, and he does it on really big canvas, huge, like over a fireplace canvas, because you guys know from being in photography, the bigger it is, the better it's going to look even when you make it small. Mm-hmm. So he likes to be large, and he goes, and it's just easier. It's too hard, he says, especially to paint something so small, like Rowdy Randy, a horsefly. So if we can put her on big canvas, she can be larger than life, and then bring her down. But so then I get to see that, and I get to go into a studio. That's something that most people don't get to do. But since he's in my hometown, and watch where he's at when he invites me, I wait for him to invite me. So he's like, hey, I'm at this stage now. So it's so neat to watch, because his thing is a whole process too. And his is 6 to 9 months minimum too, because of, you just heard me, like he's storyboarding all the way to now we got finished art. And then he has to have a special photographer. He can't just have, there's only one he knows in Casper that can do his special to make, after he's put all this time in to take the right kind of photography that he wants. And this guy isn't cheap either, but I mean, if you're good at what you do and have this studio to do it. So if you hear the illustration side, it's pretty, it's a long process too. And it's neat for me to see that.
Wow. It's incredible. I mean, you just pick up a book and you don't, it's an interesting book. You don't really realize that whole process and what all goes into that.
I never really thought much about what goes into the process of writing a children's book.
Now,
like I said, I work in the schools, and as a school resource officer, and I enjoy going to the grade schools and hanging out with the kids. And I go and we do stories, and I help. I've gone in on reading times, and we do all that. But now I'm gonna have to. Now I'm gonna look at it completely differently because I'm gonna know all the work that went into that book.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we do share stuff like on our websites and on our social media and stuff too. So you're more than welcome to take a peek. Right now, we've just been doing a but a fun celebrity countdown. But we do try to show those pieces, especially when we have a book coming out, because like you said, there's a lot. That's why I don't know if I can give it up, because it's so neat to see someone else go through the process for my book.
Yeah.
Also writing for kids and going to go see them at the schools and have those interactions, they're a rewarding audience, I would think, right? I mean,
yes, I love it. Oh my gosh. And what's so fun is their minds get going. Like I need to have a recorder when they get to start to talking, because I'm like, oh my gosh, they gave me like 50 other ideas by the time I leave. Kids are amazing when they haven't had their creativity, it's just unlimited when they're young.
So out of the comments section, question is, what authors from Cool Properties, what authors, if any, have influenced you? And we kind of hit on this, but are there other authors that you I don't know, do you find much influence from other authors on these things, or things that motivate you to go in certain directions?
Oh, of course. Like, I love Mem Fox. The illustrators that she chooses has a lot of detail and stuff too. And I like how she words things. And it's fun and it's magical to get. Like, I love the one about the magic cat. The magic cat moves like this, it moves like that. I don't know. I even love like your little board books. I'm trying to think. I like Sandra Boyton because hers are just fun and witty. I have a lot. Sometimes hard being put on the spot. I'm not always one of those people that are good, but those came to my mind right away. And like I said, Zach's. And I know Jan Brett. I like her stuff too. If you look at it, it's really detailed. But she's not from the U.S. But it's neat, all her stuff. So I definitely have book influencers that I go back to all the time.
Have you met with any other authors that you've been like a little wow factor of any other children's authors that you've been able to hook up with or meet since you've been doing this? Once you kind of get into this space, do you meet other people?
Oh yeah, you do. I would say on your big ones, I have not. I'm pretty sure Mem Fox did come here, but I think I was maybe at the University of Wyoming and stuff. I'm pretty positive she came here and went to a bunch of the schools, and maybe she went to Montana too. They did. She did come in here because I don't think she's even from the U.S. I feel like she's from Australia, I think, or something. But no, I wouldn't say I've met any big ones for children's books, but I definitely go to different ones who are trying to even up and coming because I still love them,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I definitely went to Zach's when he was first starting off, but I feel like he became a hit right away. Yeah.
I kind of want to touch on that book you did in kind of a project there with Ron Hayes. Tell us about that book, and because it seems like that was a little bit different style. So tell us about that book. How did that come about? How did you get into that project with Ron?
Well, that's actually a fun story. So we actually met on Instagram. Isn't that wild?
That's how Ron and I met the same way on Instagram.
But you know what I like about Instagram is it has all your interests all on one page. Like, it's not going to separate your friends, the businesses you like, your interests that you like. Wildlife was obviously one of them because look, I'm doing my thing, but I didn't realize at the time. So I was following his stuff heavily. I mean, I love his photography. I love all your guys' photography who do that podcast, and just any of the wildlife stuff. I feel like that's the stuff I'm reposting. But he said he was a big fan of mine as much as I was his. Even my niece was too. It was funny, and she's 23. We were just following him like crazy, but he was liking my Rowdy Randy stuff. And he's like, he wanted to do something with all this photography he has. And so he reached out and he was like, I think he talked to a couple of people first. Like, do you think she'll be okay if I reach out? And so then he did. And the funny thing is when we got to talking, we know some of the same people, but that's Wyoming, Montana, right? So right. I knew a bunch of his family and stuff. And he reached out and we collaborated right away. Now, this is more Ron's baby. he kind of decided where he wanted the project to go. I just helped him write it. He knew there were some things he wanted to say too. So I feel like I collaborated on the writing with him on this too, because he was a wildlife biologist. And so he definitely had his things, but I still did most of the writing, but he had his things he wanted to say. But it was so fun to be part of the project. And it's going to be like Rowdy Randy, like he wants to continue this project. And getting kids, his mission is to get kids out and outdoors and enjoy wildlife and that sort of thing. And I believe in that mission too, because I grew up in this generation. I like being out there. That's what we do with our kids. I mean, I put my kids in sports and things like that, but I notice our family's biggest mission is being together and being outside. I mean, that's why we live here. And so I love being a part of Ron's mission. I'm actually honored. So it was fun that it's that we were both admiring each other's stuff. And then we came together, and he's been great to work with.
Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
Oh, that's okay. In fact, when I go with him, like we got the Montana Award there at Montana State University, the High Plains Award together this fall. And there was other people who had written about wildlife too. And it was fascinating to listen to him talk to some of the other people who also wrote about wildlife. And we were actually all on a panel together there in the Billings library. And I was geeking out. Like, it was so cool to be around all these people with all this wildlife knowledge. And it was so much fun. So Ron, to me, is a very, just like Zach in his own way, Ron is a very interesting person to be around.
Yeah, we got him up on screen there. There's a picture of him with you right there. And little did you know you were going to be hanging out with the breakdancing champion of Wyoming, 1982.
Yep, I found that out too. Hip hop. Yep. Yeah, he was good.
Wow.
He was the sport kid. He's the outdoor kid. And who knew the random card? That was my first podcast I watched of you guys. I was laughing. I was like, I don't think I have a random card like this.
That was the weekend that you guys won that award, wasn't it? Because he came up here, stayed with me. We did the podcast, and then him and I went and shot elk for a whole day. And then he went back to Billings.
Oh, I didn't realize.
He met you, so you guys could do the award and then the panel.
Did we talk about that on the podcast at all?
No,
because I don't remember any of that.
No.
I didn't know that's what he was up here for. So
I'd like to think
I realized it either. I don't think I knew the elk pictures, but I did not know the podcast part. I made him meet me at the comedy club that you guys had, because you had comedians doing a whole. That was so much fun. So he actually, when he came in late after.
That's because we were up shooting the elk rut. I like to think he came up here to hang out with me, but
I thought he came here just to be at Big Fat Studios.
Well, he did for half the time. He was with you guys for a while, I'd say about half the time. So there you go.
No.
Crazy thing is, we were staying in the hotel with the comedians too. Like, we were all based.
Really?
I guess Winter from High Plains were put up in the same hotel as the comedians. That's how I knew how to go. So there's my random card. That was fun hanging out with the comedians.
Wow. That had to be a good weekend.
Cool. Yeah.
Wow.
And I'm glad that he reached out and put us all together, because I've had a super exciting time getting to meet you and learn about Steamboat and the other works that you do. So I'm really glad that this worked out.
Yeah, I am too, because it did. Once I kind of, I went and I found your website, and I went through everything. Like I was just like, oh wow, okay, interesting. Like at first I was like, oh yeah, this idea came up, but then once I went and I looked into a bunch of things, and I was like, I'm excited about this, because there's a lot going on here, and it's fun to talk with people who are just passionate about what they're doing, and that's just. Obviously what I see right here is like, it's like on whatever level it's at, when you're passionate about it, you're into it, and it kind of relights a fire in yourself. That's why I like talking to people and being around people who are passionate about what they're doing. And because I like to think that we're passionate about what we're doing. So no, it was awesome. And it was awesome, like doing a deep dive on your books and doing a deep dive on that history. Anything that pushes me into those newspaper clippings.
Oh yeah.
Holy mackerel. I end up with a problem. I get home late.
Sending me stuff at
I'm calling him at night.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, you don't believe what I found.
Have
And,
you guys ever gone to the Buffalo Bill Museum there in Cody?
I
Oh, yeah.
have one time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. Yeah.
I need to go spend some more time there, though. Have you ever been to the Museum of the Beartooths, though? That's our
No.
museum. Oh my goodness. Well, the next time you swing through Columbus, you'll have to go check out the Museum of the Beartooths. That's our museum here in town.
I'm going to
Penny's
check it
did a
out.
job up there. We do
Yeah.
podcast episodes with Penny over there from the museum, and
Well,
so
awesome.
we're yeah,
That's fun.
yep.
I love mountain life, so I will definitely check it out. Well, isn't that our tallest? Well, to drive, anyways, range. Between here and Montana. Yeah, can't go through that pass very often.
Yeah, right.
No. And now what is it? They got Cook City got 4.5 feet in that one storm.
Really?
Yeah. Where we got dumped on, when we got like 2.5, 3 feet here, Cook City got 4.5 or 5 foot just in Cook City.
I didn't even think about them.
Yeah. I bet the pass won't be open as early this year as normal. It won't be open till first or second week of June, I'm guessing.
Isn't it just open 2 months a year? I feel like it is the one place that gets snow all the time. They're the one where we get snow in July.
Yeah. I took my wife. Well, she wasn't my wife at the time we were dating, and I took her backpacking. Because she's originally from Texas. I was like, I'm going back to Montana. I can't stand not being home anymore. Brought her up here, and I said, if you don't like it, I'll buy you a bus ticket and you can go back to Texas. But so I took her backpacking right when we're dating, and she's like, this is what you do for fun? I'm like, yeah, this is what I do for fun. 4th of July weekend, and it snowed on us.
Oh man.
Up in the mountains. We were at First and Second Rock Lake up Lake Fork Trail, and it snowed on us for like a day and a half.
Good. That's how you found out she's a keeper.
Oh yeah, now she is.
Yeah.
She loved it up here. She'd never go back to Texas, I don't think, to live forever. But I had to test her out here. I took her spring bear hunting the first time she met any of my family, and we camped in a wall tent.
Wow.
And then I took her backpacking.
That's how you found out she's the one.
Oh, and addictive. I love it. I mean, mountain ranges are beautiful.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh, wow. And you're down in Casper. Casper has a bunch of interesting history. And then once you mentioned that, I was just kind of like, in my readings of things, even the name, how they got the name of Casper, Lieutenant Casper, actually.
Young too.
Yeah. And Casper actually, not, I'm fuzzy on this, but I can't remember if that was his dad that was down in Colorado. There was like a captain or some major Casper who was down in Colorado. And anyway, kind of a tragic story, what happened there in obviously Casper, Wyoming. But I think the thing down in Colorado was also a tragic story as well.
Well, his dad, the Fort Collins is named after his dad.
Yes, Fort Collins.
This is Casper Collins.
Yep.
So Casper's named after, though we changed the last part of it because his name was Caspar, and the fort's still that way, but it's Casper. Now, the son had a tragic, I don't know about the father. I thought he lived a lot longer life.
He could have. I'm pretty fuzzy on that. You're right now that I'm like, Casper wasn't the name down in Colorado. It was Fort Collins.
The last name.
Yeah. Interesting though. Like there's just these names like that we just pass through these towns and we don't. I find that the more you know about the history of things, the richer your experience. Like I said, the richer your experience is. So I can drive through Casper, Wyoming, and there's many times I've driven through there getting blown around, and you're just like, when am I going to be past here? Because it is so windy. But just those little things that we can know about, like, oh, holy cow! After the Fetterman massacre at Camp Phil Kearney, the post commander there in the dead of winter, they recalled him in like 1867 or 1868 after that happened. And it's a treacherous ride they did. He and his wife and all these other guys, he got recalled from that post and they rode to Casper, Fort Casper. Anyway, when you learn all these things and you're like, you know what? I'm driving along. I got the heater on in my car. I'm listening to some, whatever. You realize, I don't have it so bad. But when you know these things about the history of that area and you're like, wow, there were some epic things that went on in this area. It just makes your experience richer as you're traveling through these places. So that's what I find.
Yeah,
find-
so those I feel like those shows like the 1923 and all that stuff, Casper does get highlighted in one of those because we were a major fort, but you didn't want to be stuck here. It'd be rough, and you better know what time of year you're going to be here. You were going to be stuck here, but it would be the place like if you needed to, you were wounded, you could be taken care of. You needed to stock up on stuff, that kind of thing. I thought it was neat. It was in some of those shows, but yeah, it's harsh, and it still is. Like you said, you're going through and you're gonna get blown around. Hey, but the air's clean.
The air is clean, but I don't think I've ever been through Casper when it's not windy. I will say that
the air's clean
Always
there
windy.
because it's getting refreshed and replaced about every 0.7 seconds.
Yes.
I mean, the whole area is, and
Yeah.
I think back in all those, during those time periods, or any time period, it's a place that it was a challenging place to live, but there's a lot of fascinating history down there in that area. So it's not just a windy place.
Right. And it's actually great to live in today's world. I mean, and we don't blow all the time. Don't talk to us in January and February. I mean, we're grumpy. That's cold wind. It's awful. It wants to blow more than ever. We have our own weather going on half the time anyways.
Yeah.
But I love our summers here. I don't feel like you see the wind as much. Maybe the 2:00 time, maybe it comes in. But I just feel like we do have our river, the Platte River, and it's got the blue ribbon fishing right there in the city. The mountains are 15 minutes. They're not big. They're not mighty. But I can go hike without getting eaten by a grizzly bear all by myself. I like that independence. And then we have some great, as my husband's from Wisconsin, we have great reservoirs, not lakes. But I do like going to them because they're beautiful because, they're surrounded in our mountains too. Yeah. So I like that everything's at our fingertips and I can be, it's not Jackson Hole, but I can be independent.
Yeah. Now that you bring up family, I mean, just being nosy here, do you have kids or?
I do.
Great.
2 boys. One's
what
in high school, 13 and 16. They just had their birthday, so we now just have a driver on our hands. And then 13 doing middle school. Yeah.
So what has it been like with them, like 13? Because you've been writing now for several years. So they've kind of been growing up there with you, through this process. What's that been like?
Oh, it's been a blast because, of course, when I first started out with books, they would be my testers. They're not so much anymore. I still make them listen and read. Well, I guess Steamboat, that was still age appropriate for them.
Yeah.
And they were interested. But it's been great because guess what? Their classrooms definitely got to be read to first. And I would always find book donations too. So I get all their friends' books and stuff too. And because I feel like it's hard a lot of times to do the here you can buy my book thing. There's so many people who want to do things for kids. So it's been great to just get books when I go into classrooms and from business donations or
I
people
bet you all those times where you would come in there though, they were like little celebrities for the day. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, that's my mom.
But I'm not going to hear that at this point.
No, they'll act cool now, but I know they still feel it. I know it. They're going to act cool, but deep down, they're still like, that's my mom.
Yeah.
So no, that's cool.
They got their own language now too, but I haven't tried to keep up with that slang.
No, I wouldn't either.
You can't.
I can't. I refuse.
I can't do it.
Why did you?
I'm like, did
Just
you
from
send me a
school
bunch of letters? Just did you send me just like a whole sentence with just the first letter of every word? I'm not even going to acknowledge that. Like, yeah.
No, I can't. The kids. So when I'm in the schools and talking to kids in the hallway or stuff like that, I understand like every third word they say. I'm just like, yeah, cool. Give them a thumbs up. Be like, have a good class. Cause I have no idea what you just told me.
So you don't try to throw some of these words back at them? I mean, I have, but I get the what?
I have. Well, I do it with my kids because it's embarrassing to them. So my oldest turns 18 in a week and a half. Holy crap. I'm going to have an 18-year-old.
Holy mackerel.
So I do it to her all the time. And she's like, Dad, don't ever talk like that to me again.
Now you just save it for when she's around her friends.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guinea pig it with my kids and they're like, Dad, if you go to the schools and talk like that to the kids, they're
I'm going to get beat up.
pretty much. So
I cannot imagine being a teacher with those age groups just for that language alone. I mean, I think that they're fun age groups because I'm telling you that humor really comes in high school. In middle school, I feel like I'm constantly doing no, we don't say that. No, okay, that's not funny, But once they hit high school, man, I can't keep up with it. I tell my son, I go, I might not laugh all the time, but you're pretty witty. Like, I have to think about what you're saying. It's hilarious. Yeah.
I just noticed we have Ron Hayes is in the building. Well, he's in the comment section.
Oh, he is. Hey,
he
Ron.
is. Yes. Yes. He said, I came up for everything. I think when we were talking about all
his action-packed 4-day weekend.
Yeah, man, he fit a lot of stuff in. That's awesome.
He did.
That's
Man,
incredible.
what did we start? We started like at 7:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
Because we wanted to be up in the
That's
mountains.
right. That's right. It was. Hey, and thank you, Ron, for coming and doing that with us, and for popping in here tonight. Because of you, now we get to meet somebody else who's super interesting. So we appreciate that 100%. So, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ron.
Yeah. Hey, I really appreciate your time and just coming on here and sharing some of this stuff with us. It's been, it's been just really good to get to know you, get to know this process, and realize, there's like levels to this. Like this isn't just all face value stuff here. So, I just appreciate that. I'll probably see you on the 17th up here in Billings because I'm going to try to get over there and get a book signed.
Me too. Oh, it's a Friday. I can use it as a school thing, so I can go.
Yeah,
There
man.
you go.
And
Dude,
it's Good Friday.
It's
No, it's
that's
Thursday.
right.
Actually, no, you guys are Thursday. Billings the 17th is Thursday.
Is it a Thursday?
Hmm.
Maybe you can convince somebody who's in charge that you need to take some deserving students with you on this field trip.
Maybe I can.
Because it's over the like lunch hour-ish time.
Yeah, it's a 40-minute drive, so it'd be during their lunch.
We're a little
hour.
ways out of
Billings,
but
Yeah,
yeah,
so
we're gonna try to go. We're gonna try to go.
yeah.
So,
Yay! Please
Yeah.
do. Yeah.
and then anytime you want to come on and hang with us, you're more than welcome.
You always are. Yes.
Well, thank you.
reach
Yeah,
out.
especially with doing books with Ron in the future and stuff too. I'd love to do that. I want to hear
Are
more
you
about
going to
his
be
book.
doing more? Are you doing more with Ron and more? You got more plans?
Yeah, he wants to do more. Yep.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
So he did the wildlife one about moms,
Mhm.
and then he talked about doing the dads. But guess what? My niece figured it out before him and I did. My niece laughed one morning while we were having coffee. She goes, "Okay, what are you going to say about the dads? Because they're not usually the nurturers, right? So unless you get into the bird world, you could do
Yeah.
bird." And then Ron laughed because he was like, "Oh, she's right."
Yeah, he could talk. He'd do a grizzly bear book about how after the cubs are born, got to kind of keep them away from the boars because dads will come back and eat unalive. The kids have to say that now. Unalive the cubs.
Yeah,
so
we
that-
have to
Yeah.
watch what we say online now.
So the sows will go back into heat. I mean, I don't know how you could make that into a children's book, but
Holy mackerel! That's yeah.
Well, I think what he's going to do, which I think this is, I give him a hard time. I go, it's just because it gives you an excuse to travel. Yeah, I think he's going to pick different animals. I think he wants to start with bears, which is my favorite too, and do the different bears in the different regions in North America. And, just again, gives them an excuse to go on that polar bear photography, trip.
yeah, I do get on him about the birds though. I love bird photography, and I know quite a bit about birds, not everything, but
It's an astonishing amount,
Whatever.
from my perspective.
But I mean, I actually go on photography trips just for birds. Like I went to Ohio just to photograph one species of bird that I really wanted to photograph. So, and he's like, "Hey, that's a pretty cool bird." I'm like, "You should know the name of this biologist guy." But
So what is it?
Birds. Me, I wanted to go take pictures of the black-throated blue warbler.
Oh, wow.
And so it's black and white and blue, really pretty bird. Once in a while, they'll come this far west during migration. Like I think this year, last summer, we had one in Montana for like 6 days that people were seeing and got pictures of it. And I want to say over by Miles City, or maybe it was farther east, but it's normally a bird that the migration route is right over Lake Erie. So I went there to take pictures of that. I've gone down to Texas to take pictures of birds that are specific to that area. So it's my excuse to travel too, if I can't get the big mammals. And no matter what, like when I went to Africa, I was getting yelled at because I wanted to stop and take pictures of birds. And they're like, there's a leopard right there. I'm like, yeah, that's cool. But that's bird too. So
I love it.
I
Birds
do
are fascinating though. Their colors are.
Yeah, there's a black-throated
fascinating.
blue there. I think you can see it
Yes.
on the screen. Yeah. So
yeah, kind of
I'm
crazy.
going to make some of these trips when my kids grow up.
Yeah,
Right there.
for sure.
there you go.
Well, that's awesome. Hey, well, we appreciate your time this evening. Can't wait to meet you in person on the 17th. And I did put all of that information there in the description. I just went and copied and pasted right from your website, Casey. So hopefully, yeah.
And you do have Instagram. Where can people find you if they want to follow you on Instagram?
Casey Rislov Books. Yeah.
And your website is it CaseyRislovBooks.org?
Or com. I actually bought all of them, so nobody could, superimpose that they were me. That was the recommendation. So, yeah.
The real Casey or Rislov? The Casey
Probably
Rislov.
even .gov. I'm just kidding. I don't know. I just know I bought a bunch of those.
No, that's the way to go. Because, once you get your first movie made, you're gonna want to make sure you want to own all those, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Rowdy Randy.
There you go.
The silver screen.
Rowdy Randy cartoon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could see it. I could totally see it.
Yeah. Brought to you by Pixar.
Yeah. When I'm retired, I want to see that that's happened. Yep.
That would be cool. And it's out there in the universe now, and it'll ever be memorialized on YouTube that you said that. So
there you go.
All right. You never know. Takes that right person, because now it takes investors. Like the whole movie thing is a different deal too. Not that we need to go down that rabbit hole, but I've heard you got to have investors, and that's why some people just invest in themselves. Well, I don't have that kind of money, so.
No, but I think that's awesome though that you just make it happen, because you did publish this independently, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think hey, that's awesome. Make it happen, and there's so many people that just do that, and thank goodness, because the gatekeepers don't always let the good stuff through. So, so I'm glad it wasn't up to the gatekeepers. So,
indie world is strong in books. I feel like we were 20 years behind music. I feel like music took off in the 90s, and here we are the last 15 years. So I think it's great because it's fun to have control.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm about it. Hey, thank you everybody who's chiming in the comments section as well. This has been fun. We appreciate you all. You can check out more about where Casey's at. It's all in the description. And I'll look at the lens here so you can. I feel bad when I'm always looking down at my screen here, but thank you, Casey, for tuning in with us tonight here at the Old Big Fat Podcast. And hey, when you come through Columbus, I'm telling you, let us know. We'll take you over to the museum, or come sit down here at Big Fat Studios with us. We're in the what do we say? We're in the downtown.
We're in the downtown Uncle Sam's complex.
We're in downtown Columbus in the greater metro area at the Uncle Sam's complex. That's a great little sandwich shop right next door is the Uncle Sam's.
And I'll take you up on both. I'll do both. I want the tour and then we can talk about it.
All right.
Awesome.
We'll do it.
And maybe I drag Ron with me too.
Yes, drag Ron. Actually, when you do your next project as well with Ron, hey, just know, hey, boom, we'd love to have you guys both on here and talk about the project.
Yeah.
Love to travel, so I'm in. You don't have to twist my arm.
All right. We'll see you next. Is it next week? 17th? No.
2 weeks.
2 weeks. We'll see you then.
Yeah. All right.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks everybody. We'll see you.
Appreciate you, Milo. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.